So while it's true that churches cannot support specific candidates for election, there are some times when it becomes important for churches to speak out on issues coming up during an election. Times when our values are so aligned with an issue that we feel called to speak out. The more conservative churches are really good at this, and they promote their values all the time. So if we want our liberal, progressive values of equality and guaranteed civil rights to be reflected in the world too, sometimes we have to get a little political. Now, I'm really pleased this morning to introduce Linda Hickman. Linda is a Unitarian Universalist from our sister church in Falmouth, so she knows a little bit about what we are about here. And I've invited her here to talk to us about the Yes on 3 campaign. And as you'll hear, this vote is linked deeply with her faith and also with her family. Linda.
Good morning. As Kate said, my name is Linda Hickman, and I live in Cotuit. I attend the UU Fellowship in Falmouth. Thank you all, and thank you, Kate, for inviting me to speak here about something that's very, very important to me. First, I have to tell you that I'm not a public speaker. I'm just a regular person, wife and a mother. I'm a mom to a 14-year-old transgender son. His name is Jeff. Jeff officially transitioned when he was 10 years old, but he had been slowly transitioning the years before that. And through his slow transition, he was grooming us, his parents, grooming us, grooming our acceptance, and helping shape our love for him and our respect for his life as a transgender person. We got to see our son as just trying to live his authentic life. In trying to create a warm, loving, accepting environment in our home for him, we realized we needed to be informed. And once we became informed, we needed to be involved. So I began volunteering with the PFLAG in my area. When I was volunteering at Pride Day, I met this lovely woman, her name's Nancy, and she told me she was the pianist at the UU Fellowship in Falmouth, and she invited us to come. My son had been asking us to go to a church, one where he could be accepted. So Nancy made me feel that this was the right choice for us. So the following week we attended. And quite frankly, we've been there ever since. We love the UU Fellowship. We were welcomed there with open arms, warmly, lovingly. Our son feels so comfortable there. And our vision of an accepting fellowship has given us a broader sense of our own community. And it's as a result of learning the 7 principles. I know that we all know them, but I have to say them because it's important to me. The first being the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That's one of those things that makes me say, you had me at hello, right? Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement of spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. The goal of our world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And lastly, respect for the independent web of existence of which we are all part. When Kate called me on the phone to talk about coming today, she told me about Fantasia Fair and that it was going on here this week in P-Town. I told her the truth. I didn't know anything about it. My focus has been laser focused on children, transgender children, and how to make them feel loved and welcome in their own home. So all of my conferences have been about children and their parents. So I did what any good girl would do. I looked it up. And what I discovered is that this is a wonderful opportunity here in P-Town for the whole week, that people can come from wherever they live, near and far, and openly and fully immerse themselves in their gender identity and their gender expression. Before I began volunteering with the Yes on 3 campaign, I didn't know that 31 states in our nation allow denying someone employment, housing, or access to public spaces because of their sexual orientation or gender expression. I don't have to imagine how difficult it must be to try to suppress your gender identity or to live in a way that is not authentic because of the circumstances around you. I've had my son's life to show me that. And we've had all the experiences, good and bad. So I can tell you that when Massachusetts updated its non-discrimination law in 2016, I was elated to see that transgender people would be included in those protections. My joy was dampened very quickly thereafter because a group of folks brought up a petition to bring a referendum to the 2018 ballot seeking to rescind the law. We know it today as question 3. They've implied that men are in the ladies' restrooms and that women and girls aren't safe anymore. Well, we are thinking, feeling individuals who are seeking truth, and one thing we look to are the facts. And the law has been in place for 2 years now, and the facts are in. There's no change, no increase in crimes related to bathrooms, which is why the Yes on 3 campaign has been endorsed by victims' advocates groups and the Massachusetts Police Chiefs Association. So this ballot question is really about dignity and equality for all people in Massachusetts. The UU has shown me that we're all just people trying to be our best selves. And when we come together in fellowship, we inspire each other to be our best selves. I plan to act in harmony with what my heart tells me is right, and with the 7 principles I've learned at the UU Fellowship, by displaying my acceptance and my respect and demand dignity for all in Massachusetts by voting yes on 3. I want to keep the law that protects all transgender people in Massachusetts. When I told a volunteer, she's laid up at home, she has a broken leg, so she's been doing her volunteer work from home. We were talking on the phone together. And I told her, I said, yeah, I'm going to P-Town to talk at the UU Fellowship there. And it was one of those moments where you could see the person on the other end of the phone. And she said, aren't you preaching to the choir there? And I smiled and I said, maybe. I said, but does the choir sing loudly? Because that's what we really need to do. That's where we are in the campaign. We need everybody, whether you learn the information today for the first time or you knew it before, to take it home. Take it home with you, share it with your family and your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. Really, anybody who'll give you an audience. Help them find their best selves and demonstrate that they want dignity and respect for our transgender friends, loved ones, and neighbors by voting yes on question 3. And I'm never going to tell you how to vote, right? I don't care who you vote for. That's your choice. I'm not going to tell you about a candidate or anybody else. You vote your own way. But I'm asking you to vote yes on question 3, to protect dignity for transgender people in Massachusetts. And vote early. Early voting starts tomorrow. Yay! So we get to avoid the long lines, right? And besides being self-motivated that I get to get it done and out of the way and I don't have to wait in line, it does an important thing for this campaign. It gives us those early figures that we need to have in order to know where we need to talk some more, where do we need to go, who do we need to talk to help them find their best selves and find it possible for them to vote yes on 3. We need to win. That's just the way it is. Transgender people need to win. And the only way that we can do that is to vote yes on 3. All eyes in this country are on Massachusetts. There are 11 states in Washington, D.C. that protect the rights of transgender people. And if we don't win in Massachusetts, they're going to run like a steamroller over all of those states. We don't want that. We want to win. So, as in all good UU fashion, I plan to stay for coffee after this meeting. I do eat the cookies. And I like to socialize and meet other UU members. So if you want to come up and chat, I'll be here to chat. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. And I'd love to share my son with you. He's at the OWL program right now while we speak. And I'd love to talk about that program too, because there are some really good stories involved in that. So, that's it. That's what I had to share today. And thank you very, very much.
This is a prayer by Reverend Kate Wilkinson and a quote from Reverend Rebecca Parker. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, from which I was born, to which I will return. Be present with us this hour. Remind us of our worth and dignity. Remind us of the strength of community, the resilience of the spirit. Remind us of our responsibility to care for one another, to show up for one another, to stick up for one another. Remind us to listen to each other's experiences, to balance our humanity with our divinity. Help us to know deep in our bones that there is love. Holding me, there is love holding you. There is love holding all. I rest in this love. Amen.
Now I invite Jerry Cannon to give our reading this morning.
First, let me say, I'm glad to be here. I'm a member of First Parish Church, UCC Church in Somersworth, New Hampshire, and I'm glad that you welcomed me here. I'm also a transgender woman. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there, terribly old, crying a warning. Hurry, you will be dead before. What? Before you reach the morning? Or the end of the poem is clear? Or love safe in the walled city. How to stand still, to be here, feel my own weight and density. The black shadow on the paper is my hand, the shadow of a word. As thought shapes the shaper, falls heavy on the page, is heard. All fuses now falls into place, from wish to action, word to silence. My work, my love, my time, my face, gathered into one intense gesture of growing like a plant, as slowly as the ripening fruit. Fertile, detached, and always spent. Falls, but does not exhaust the root. So all the poem is, can give, grows in me to become the song, made so and rooted by love. Now there is time, and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live, all of myself, and do not move. I, the pursued, who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun.
A few weeks ago in our service on Universalism, I ended by saying that the saving message that we offer here at the Meeting House is the message on our answering machine. April's cheery voice says at the end of our message, "All are welcome, come as you are." And today I want to lift up again how special that invitation is, to come as you are. Some of you might have thought that I was going to be talking about Nirvana's hit song this morning. Sorry to disappoint you. Same title, though. There's a joke that sometimes gets told about churches, which says that what is really meant by come as you are is come as we are. Meaning that if you're like us, you'll be quite welcome. That's true in a lot of places. But I think we really mean it when we say, come as you are. We dress casually, or we dress up if we want. We don't have to pretend that we are happy if we are sad. We come with our partners and hold their hand if we want to, or we come alone and sit with friends. We express our age, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, emotions in ways that are authentic to us. And we are welcome here. Now that doesn't mean that we get it right all the time, or that we will understand each other completely. We will still all bring our assumptions, our biases, our misconceptions. We will sometimes say the wrong thing, use the wrong pronoun, express our cultural insensitivity. I don't think that we as Unitarian Universalists are above that. I know we're not. I know I'm not. We will make mistakes. But we are starting from the understanding that we should be free to express who we are, and that our relationships with each other and with the holy will be strongest when we are bringing our full selves to the table. And when we dare to leave pretense behind, we can begin to get to know one another with all the little pieces of who we are. Not just the shiny ones, not just the ones that are like each other, but also the ones that are different, also the ones that take some getting used to. This week I was reading an article about a woman named Bozoma St. John. When Bozoma was 5 years old, a coup d'etat forced her family to flee their native country of Ghana and seek political asylum in the United States. They somehow found their way to Colorado Springs and began building a life there. Bozama did not fit in. She remembers developing an encyclopedic knowledge of all things pop culture in order to make friends. But she also doubled down on who she was, on what she brought to the table. When we moved to Colorado, she says, there was nothing I could do about the color of my skin, my hair, or my height. And I'll just mention that as an adult, Bozama is almost 6 feet tall and wears bright, bold colors and has beautiful dreadlocks down past her waist. Embracing my differences was important to my mother, she says. We spoke our native tongue and ate native foods. It didn't matter if on a Friday night I had my 15-year-old friends over for a slumber party. She was not going to be serving pizza. You're going to eat pepper soup and you're going to like it. Those were good lessons about accepting your full self, she says. Being able to be comfortable and being the authentic me always got me attention. Sometimes too much attention makes you a target, but you take the hits and you push forward. Bozama St. John has used the attention that being herself has gotten her, and she has created a career of it. She was, until recently, the chief brand officer for Uber. She was one of the very few black female executives in Silicon Valley. And now she has taken a position with the entertainment conglomerate Endeavor. Her motto is, bring your whole self to work. I think it's really important, even now as I sit in this seat, she says, because bringing your whole self is a very human thing. This is not the resume. This is the stuff that makes you, you. It's what makes your story interesting and unique. Bringing your whole self to work is the mantra for me, she says, as I sit in my office and do the work. At my wedding, I chose to have a reading from the Velveteen Rabbit as part of our ceremony. You probably know the part that I mean. What is real? Asked the Velveteen Rabbit one day when he and the toy skin horse were lying side by side in the nursery. Real isn't how you're made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When someone really loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it hurt? Asked the rabbit. Sometimes, said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up, he asked, or bit by bit? It doesn't happen all at once, said the skin horse. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen to people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. I chose that reading because it is very special to be loved. But it's really even more special to be loved when you have risked sharing your full self, your real self. Because then you know that it is your full self, your real self, who is being embraced. And you don't have to hide those parts of yourself that you fear are unlovable. I'm thinking of more song lyrics. This time John Legend. 'Cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. All your perfect imperfections. And it's not just in romantic love that we can feel that complete sense of embrace, right? It's in intentional communities like this one. It's in our friendships. It's in our chosen families. It's in our sense of spirituality, our connection to that which is greater than ourselves, that which created us. Now, I wish that our little community were just a microcosm of the greater world out there beyond our four walls. I wish Provincetown was just one of a million small towns in which people feel free to express all of who they are. But the fact is, the wider world is not like that. Not yet. And part of our task as people of faith is to help to build that world. First, we learn how to do it better in our little group of 100. And then, we bring that possibility out into the world with us. We do things like vote yes on question 3 here in Massachusetts. And we find other ways to create a greater sense of safety for people whose full selves are not going to be easily accepted by the world, which still says, come as we are, instead of come as you are. And then we share our message with them. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding you. There is a love holding all. Come, rest in this love. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be.